So yeah, last year on MLK Day, I went to the Hoop Ball Classic in Springfield, Massachusetts, with my dad, my brother, and my friend Mike, and it's a high school invitational tournament where some of the top teams in the country, prep school, public school, Catholic schools, get invited and play at the Springfield College, which is right near the Hall of Fame, and the games are on ESPNU and stuff. And I was covering the tournament for my dad's company, 5 Star Basketball, and so we kind of went in going to see some of the top guys, Aaron Gordon, who's now a star at Arizona, see the top team, Montverde Academy, or one of the top teams, Montverde Academy, who has the likes of Casey Hill, who you saw, who actually Lone Peak lost to earlier in the year. And we were kind of just going to see some good basketball, but with the privilege of working for my dad's company, I had a press pass and I had access to the locker room and to speak to everyone after the game. So the second game of the day, I think Lone Peak was playing Archbishop Mitty, which is a Catholic school from California who's usually one of the top teams there all the time. And they have Aaron Gordon, who I just mentioned, who is now the star of Arizona. And we kind of go into this game and we see Archbishop Mitty with their great team, Aaron Gordon. Everyone's can't wait to see him and all his dunks. And you see Lone Peak, a bunch of white kids from Utah who don't really look like they're fit to be there, but they are there, so there has to be a reason. So as the game starts, we see what we think. We see Aaron Gordon dropping 20 points, but his team loses by 40 to Lone Peak. And once we saw that, me and my dad knew something was going on, so I kind of went to research this stuff, and I found out that their 3 best players were going to play at BYU together after their mission. So now I know there's more of a story, but I still don't really know what's up. So with my press pass, I go to the locker room, and I haven't really told many people this, but the team, they had a game the next day in Utah, and they were rushing for their flight. So the guys said no interviews for anyone. But anyway, everyone wanted Aaron Gordon anyway. So even though his team lost by 40, everyone wanted to speak to Aaron Gordon. I was like, all right, I'll just try to speak to Lone Peak kids and see what they're really about. So I went up to them. Security guard said no because they had to leave, but I got to tap a couple of them on the shoulder. And I got to speak to Eric, TJ, and Nick, who you just saw in the film. And I kind of asked them, you guys just killed this team. You guys are going to BYU together. Is there something we don't know? And there's a lot to it, but we've been playing together since 2nd grade AAU, and we just built. We're all best friends, and we've used all of that and what we have off the court to make it on the court, and that's why we're so successful. So, and I asked them all separately the same question. They all had the same answer, so I knew something was up. So I kind of go home and I speak to my parents about maybe making a documentary. I've always loved film, but I never really thought that anything like this would come up this soon, considering I was in 8th grade at the time. So they thought I was a little crazy, but we got to speak to Steve. We got to speak to some basketball junkies in the world who knew Lone Peak, but not everyone really knew who they were. And anyway, a couple weeks later, I emailed Coach Lewis, who you saw in there, and kind of said, I said everything I wanted a documentary to be without me saying that I'm in 8th grade. So maybe he would want to do it just because he thinks it would be a good exposure for the school. So he said he loved the idea, but he said you're going to have to wait a month or 2 because we still have to finish our season. Like, this isn't a finished product yet. So long story short, once the season ended, they finished national champions, as you saw in there. And yeah, I just got in. I reconnected with them, and we went out to Utah. We met Ben only like a week before our first trip to Utah, but we kind of rushed it, and we went out there so quick because Nick, who you heard in there, this was end of April, and he was leaving May 1st for 2 years to go to Germany, and we knew that he's such a key role to this team that without Nick there's not much we can do. So we basically rushed out there. I missed 2 days of school and to get him before he left for May 1st on his mission. And when we went there, I didn't know anyone, but everyone was so accepting to it, and it was just really easy to make the story. And ever after that, edited. We went out one more time in October, and I've been in touch with the guy since.
Did you grandmother know you missed 2 days of school?
She does now.
So I have a question for you guys. Yeah. So Zach, when you started this story, you talked about like why you connected to this particular story. Like every story that you really want to follow and you want to go make somehow is autobiographical, right? So it connected to you personally. Can you talk about why?
Yeah. So this story was kind of like the dream story for any suburban white kids who want to play basketball at the next level, and I thought it was kind of cool how these kids, I mean, I've played with some of my friends together since their age, and I think it's cool how they basically achieved the ultimate goal, which is to play with these guys and play D1 with them as well. So I thought it was kind of cool to see them and relate it to myself and my friends, to see like it is possible, and these kids really proved it, and I think it's cool that it shows that it can be done.
Yeah, I agree. I like Zach was saying, met with Joe about a week before we went out to Utah for the first time. And I grew up playing basketball, and sort of at some point once I realized I wasn't getting any taller than 5'11" and 4/5, that I needed to switch focus, so I picked up filmmaking, and Joe and I were talking about, all this great stuff. He told me about the story. I thought it was amazing, and like Zach, I connected in a similar way, just these kids who had bonded together and really, focused on a collective goal, and the fact that they not only won but beat these teams by 30 or 40, and you hear about a bunch of white Mormon kids winning the national championship, and it's not completely unbelievable, but you think maybe they win 12-10 or something like that, and they're shooting underhanded like in Hoosiers or something. To see these kids dunking and putting up 80 points a game is pretty amazing and inspiring, and to go out and speak with them and learn more about that culture was just a great experience.
Were you exposed at all to Mormonism when you say learn about that culture? What is the culture you're talking about?
Yeah, so before this trip and before learning about the team, all I really knew about Mormonism was the Book of Mormon, which was a Broadway show, and that was basically a mockery of the religion. But once I got out there, I mean, into the first trip, I still really didn't know anything. I tried to research it a little, and you can't, like, nothing that you could see online about Mormonism compares to what they say and what they go through about it. So basically, in small words, it's a form of Christianity, but it's there's many rules that they go by, and whether it's no drinking at all, no caffeine, you can't be with another girl until you get married. Not be with, but
Family audience.
whatever. There are a lot of rules. And in addition, they serve this 2-year mission, which is basically going to either a different part of the United States or a different country, but you have no say in where you go on your mission. So you're basically, you file all these papers, you say if you spoke in a different language or whatever, but you'll you'll get a letter one day, and it'll basically be saying, on this day, report to the missionary place, and you are going to be in training for 2 weeks, then you're off for 2 years to whether it's a different country, a different state, whatever. And basically they do this because it's for service, and they want to give back and kind of promote their religion when they're on the road. But yeah, it's different from anything I've heard or seen, and yeah, I really got exposed to that on our trips.
Tell them what you got in the mail for the package.
Where are they sending you?
We can't send them anything because that's against NCAA rules. But they sent me a package, and as part of the package, it was like Lone Peak gear and a signed basketball by the whole team. But in addition, they sent me the Book of Mormon with a special note on the front
real book.
The real book of Mormon, not the flag or anything. With like a note from TJ on the front, which I kind of read through and really observed, and it was crazy. He was basically telling me how important it was to him, and that if you have any problems, read through the Book of Mormon. But I thought it was really cool because I've never really thought about it, but reading through some of it, it's really interesting.
Yeah, like Zach says, you know, you can read stuff online or you can, you know, research it, but to meet these kids and really empathize with the fact that they're, you know, in this situation where they may not want to go away, they may not want to put this dream of basketball on hold for a couple of years, and the kids they're playing against or beating are now on national television, and a couple of years going to be paid, you know, millions of dollars to play in the NBA, and they'll be in Germany knocking on people's doors. And actually we learned that Nick is in an area where it's illegal to preach. So he's so he's there, and it's, you know, I'd imagine that it's a tough place to be for him right now because he's been sent there on this mission, but with really not much to do. But at the same time, they're also thankful and so excited to serve, and you know, there's a lot that maybe you would read that online and have a different picture of it, but when you're speaking to these kids face to face, it's, you know, a different experience.
And back to what he said, these guys could have, I mean, just to point out how important it is to them, Nick Emery was at a camp, I think he was either going into junior, going to senior year at Kansas, and Bill Self, who's the head coach there, basically said, we want you. I mean, like, they heavily recruited him, and Eric, who is now doing great at BYU, he's been recruited by everywhere. But these places won't let them go there because they want to go on their mission. So really, like, they had the option of I could play basketball at an awesome school and potentially go to NBA, but not really go by my religion, or I could go by my religion and hopefully find a school that accepts it. And so they all opted to go where their religion would be allowed, and that's BYU, and they'll play there together and hopefully do big things.
What dictates when they do their mission? Like, do they have to be 18 before they go away?
Yeah, so it used to be, I think you used to have to be 19 years old to go on your mission, which would kind of be hard for these guys because that basically meant you had to go at least for 1 year to college before going on your mission and then leave for 2 years. So it's kind of weird because it's by choice, but then you had to be 19. And then recently, I think a little over a year ago, they changed it to 18, which meant that people could go straight out of high school. So, but it's still like up to your choice. Like, I know people may go to college first and then go on their mission. So Nick was excited about it, and he decided I'm gonna go right after high school, try to graduate early, leave in May, so that when I come back it could be May, and then I'll have a couple months to get ready for the basketball season before he's at BYU. But Eric, on the other hand, decided that he always knew the rule was 19, and he was always planning on going to college for a year, so he didn't want to change it. So it's really by choice, but now, the age is 18, and then after that, it can be whenever you want.
Is every one of them Mormon? Do they have to be? Is the school a Mormon school?
BYU.
No, BYU is.
Lone Peak.
No, it's not a. It's they said, you know, 9 out of 10 kids at the school are Mormon, and that's just because of the community that it's in, but it's not a requirement.
Yeah, it's located in Highland, Utah, which is about it's about 30 minutes south of Salt Lake City and about 20 minutes north of Provo, which is where BYU is, and it consists of the 3 towns of Highland, Alpine, and Cedar Hills, Utah. Yep.
I was going to ask you about the coach. First of all, there's got to be something sort of special about him also. He's had a pretty winning record and seems... What's your take on him? Also, I'm just curious if he's Mormon.
Yeah, he is Mormon. He served on his mission. To put him in a few words, he went to community college, I think, in Utah. Then he went to small college in Utah, and then transferred over and played basketball at Wagner, which is in Staten Island. And then he returned. He was assistant coach at a few colleges. I know BYU, Hawaii, a couple small schools in Utah. And then he went to Lone Peak, where he this was like his first I'm pretty sure it was his first high school experience coaching, and he kind of resurrected the program. And as you heard there, he has camps there for the younger kids, and he really established a program from the young elementary school on, where he's monitoring them and he knows who's coming through the pipeline and he's making sure that they're developed. So, yeah, I mean, his winning record is an attribute to him being able to put together such a good program that's so strong and runs for so many years. But from talking to TJ's dad, Marty, he's had chances to go be head coach at some small colleges, but he loves what he's doing there, and I think unless the job is perfect, he's not going to leave it.
You guys are both athletes and basketball players, so you know about collaboration and teamwork. But it's collaboration in a film is in some ways not different, right? Figuring out a common vision and how you guys are going to work together. Can you talk about the collaboration?
Yeah, so we went out, and the first time I'd met Zack was on a plane on the way to Utah, and I'd hit some traffic, so I was running late. So I jumped on the plane, and Zack and I were off, and immediately, like you've learned just alone from this Q&A, Zack has a lot of information, and is really dedicated to knowing the ins and outs of everything that he's focused on, and I sort of came in knowing a little bit about the story, but mostly bringing the filmmaking experience. And quickly I learned that Zack had such a connection to the story with the interviews. Zack, I'm 25 now, so I see these 18-year-old, 19-year-old kids and I feel like I'm connected with them, but I forget that I'm getting a little older. And Zack has this connection with them that is really different, and was such a valuable resource to be able to sort of make them comfortable in interviews and crack into topics that maybe I wouldn't have been able to do on my own. So as far as that, and also I forget because Zack's like bigger than I am and so mature that he's 15 years old. Like, were you 14 when we started?
Yeah, I was 14.
Yeah, so I quickly learned that collaborating with Zack was great, and that we both kind of were going to be able to offer different things, like you said, in sports as well. You sort of balance out and play on each other's pros, and that was, I think it was a great collaboration.
Yeah, same for Ben. I mean, I came in I loved film, but I never really knew how to do anything with it, and Ben really helped me with that. I kind of helped him by telling him the story, and it was just great collaboration. Yeah.
Zack, I was wondering, Ben just alluded a little bit to my question regarding your age. At what point did Coach Lewis learn how young you were? Was there any reaction to that? And then, in your opinion, did you feel that being young changed this process or the outcome of the documentary for better or worse at any point?
I'm not exactly sure exactly when. It might have been the first time we met, when he kind of saw me and he realized I'm not the guy he probably pictured in the emails. But anyways, it all worked out great, and I think my age actually kind of helped it, because these kids kind of spoke to me as if I was one of them, and that I'm not just some guy who's coming in from New York and trying to take their story and make it something big. I'm just another kid who
That was me.
who wants to speak to them and know how it can be done. So yeah, I think my age, I think they were all a little shocked the first time they saw me, because they knew that this wasn't a 14-year-old's job, but but once we start to know each other and relate, and now I text these guys, the ones that are still here now on my mission, we're kind of just like friends now. So I think that definitely helped in the process, because it didn't make it any weirder that it was a documentary.
When are you going to start capturing footage for part 2, and what's the process going to be like?
So the film is going to be on iTunes on January 28th for $199 for I think a 24-hour rental and $2.99 to purchase. Anyway, we're gonna try to. Yes.
You gotta get the plug in.
Well, the point is that we're gonna try to use the money that hopefully we can make off of that to use it for a part 2, where we hopefully, if we can get the church's approval, can get footage of these kids on their missions, which has never been done, I don't think. So it's not a definite, but that's definitely the hope, that we can kind of show the world that these guys are really not doing anything related to basketball for 2 years. They're just being like anyone else. I mean, Eric, who's 6'10", he'll definitely look like someone else when he's knocking on people's doors for his mission, but he's just another Mormon kid who's preaching on his mission. So basically, yeah, I mean, we're hoping that we could get footage of them on their missions, and then in 3 years, in 2016, when they're back together at BYU, hopefully, not to put any pressure on them, hopefully they could do something big, and we could kind of put it all together to show where these guys have come from.
And you'll still be in high school.
And I'll still be in high school. Yeah, I'll be in my senior year. Yes, yes.
What was the most difficult part of the entire process of making it?
Most difficult part.
I've got one. So, the fact that they've won every game by like 40 points, it's hard to make it dramatic when they're just blowing these teams out. So, to kind of which I think ultimately led us in a good direction, because we had to look at the other things that they were coming into conflict with, and their mission, and sort of every time they walk into a gym, not being taken seriously. So that for me, just when we were starting to put it together, I sort of saw the story where it's this, underdog David and Goliath, but really it's hard to, express that when they're just killing all these teams. So, what do you think?
I agree with that, but I also think that the fact that we really had no time to really put anything together before our first trip to Utah, I mean, because everything was a little delayed, it was kind of hard to get in touch with them at first, other than Coach Lewis, but Coach Lewis helped us a lot, but we also had to get in touch with the parents to really get their permission, because you can only do so much. So yeah, I mean, we really only had 5 days or something to really prepare, to get equipment out there. I had to write interview questions for each of them, and I didn't really know what direction this would go in at the time, so I basically had to ask them like anything I could think of and write it on paper and try to after it put together a story around it and see how they work with each other. But I think it was just really hard to go out there for 2 days and get enough footage of them for hopefully a full documentary. I mean, we had to end up going out there one more time, but that first trip was definitely hard to put together. Yep.
They had some really good action shots of their games. Obviously, in the 2 days you were out there, you couldn't get it. Did they document all their games, or did you? And how did you find it, including some of the young kids playing at awfully young ages?
Yep. So the game footage from this year, they worked with a local company who made a highlight film for them, which made it easier for us. But we also had to. I mean, they sent us 30 to 40 minutes of highlights. So I mean, we can only choose a couple of those to put in. So yeah, we were lucky enough to, and Coach Lewis helped us get in touch with those people who had the footage, and luckily that worked well with us being able to obtain that. And the footage of them as kids, we were kind of just hoping that they had it. We really knew nothing going into, but I spoke to a couple of the parents, and yeah, they had highlights of them when they were at that. I think they were in second grade, and they were at nationals in Florida, in Cocoa Beach, Florida, with their local AAU team, and that was highlights from there. So, which was cool. And another fact that they didn't talk about in there was when they were at that nationals in second grade in Cocoa Beach, one of the teams that they played and beat was featured Jabari Parker, who's now the star of Duke, and he's a whole nother story with Mormonism. But it was cool that like they've been really on the circuit this whole time, but they still weren't very well known. Yeah.
Zack, has Coach Lewis and the team seen the final product?
Yeah, so kind of.
And do you think, the second part before you answer that, do you think Coach Lewis or the religion, the Church of Latter-day Saints, would use even the film to promote the program or the religion? Because it seems like being part of that religion has good results. Right?
Yeah. So showing it to them was they're all at different places right now, so it's hard because, one's in Germany, Nick. TJ is still a senior in high school with Coach Lewis playing on a team, and Eric's at BYU. So we had this whole plan that during December break, I would go out. I was in California anyway, but Eric was playing a game at Pepperdine. And this would be awesome because I was in the area. I would be able to show him the documentary because it had just finished a couple weeks before. And I'd sent him the trailer and stuff, but he was really hyped up to see it. And traditionally, BYU beats Pepperdine, and I don't want to say anything controversial, but we were hoping that it would be an easy win and that we'd be able to show it to Eric after. He'd be all happy and he would love it. And kind of turned tables when BYU lost the game. Eric fouled out, had a technical foul, and I won't grade his performance. He just wasn't too happy about how he played, and we could tell that when we saw him after the game. So it kind of was a lot different than we thought, and this was just more adversity to trying to get them to actually see the film, which shouldn't be too hard, but we want to see his reaction. So anyway, after the game, we got to see him, and this was only a couple weeks ago, and he was in a rush, so we didn't really get to be with him when we saw it, but I sent it to him, and he watched on the bus ride back, and he was not happy at the moment, but then I got a text from him the next morning saying, watched it last night, unbelievable, made me not want to die anymore. It made him happy, so that's him. TJ and his dad, Mr. Hollis, who by the way has been very helpful in all of this, he's coordinated a lot of this, they have seen it and they loved it. They still a lot of things I don't remember. Nick is on his mission, obviously, so he can't. I don't think he could see it yet. We're gonna try to set up something, but his family has seen it so far and they loved it, and they're really into the idea of possibly getting footage of him on the second trip, or for the second part on his mission. And we sent it to Coach Lewis, who I think showed it to some of the guys on the team there. So far, that's really all the people that have seen it. As it starts getting closer, we plan on sending it to reporters who will hopefully make a big deal of it in the Utah area. But until January 28th, those guys have seen it and no one else really has.
What about the BYU thing, though? To Laura's point about showing it to Mormons and the issue that you came across exactly.
Utah's compliance.
Right.
Yeah, so I've learned a lot about NCAA rules and regulations since this, and there's a lot of sensitivity in regards to how it can be used for promotional reasons and things like that. So we've run up with a little trouble like that. So BYU, I don't think will be endorsing the film or anything like that, because that would put them in a place where they're using their players to promote something that's for sale. As far as the church or anything like that, I mean, our intention wasn't to go out and make something that was going to be propaganda for the church or against it. We just really wanted to kind of objectively, put a lens on the story, and I think it makes them look good, but it's also it shows that's a complicated issue. And I'd imagine we'll be dealing with the church if we're trying to get approval to go out on the mission. So hopefully they'll like it.
I hope you guys do.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell the story how you got the Today Show footage?
So I actually, my sister was a page at NBC, and she knew someone who worked at the Today Show, and I, emailed and eventually got through to the right person, and they're actually great. It took them a while to get it to us. We're small fish for them, I think, but yeah, they were very willing and happy to give it to us.
Versus the New York Times.
Well,
right. Yeah, I can't remember. We wanted to show a clip of a picture of a headline that was in the New York Times, and I can't remember how much it was going to cost, but it was too much for 3 seconds of documentary. So.
But going back to the Today Show point and all the media, just because I think it would be interesting to hear. I remember, so after they played at this tournament, I saw them. I still hadn't seen them anywhere other than just when I saw them. And then I remember one morning being woken up by my mom saying, Zach, I have news for you. Lone Peak is on the cover of the Sports New York Times. And I'm like, all right, is that good news or bad news? She's like, it's how you interpret it. So, but I mean, between when I saw them and when they won the national championship, they got a lot of coverage. And between the Today Show, Good Morning America, BBC, USA Today, and New York Times, I mean, they were everywhere. But no one really told the complete story. So that's why we kind of took this opportunity to say, all right, there's definitely a story here if it's going to be covered on all these outlets, and we'll try to make the most of it.
Given your closeness to the basketball scene and some of the people you all know, do you have any surprises in terms of how you can get people to talk about the film? Any coaches, or how do you promote, publicize it?
Do you know anyone?
Well, hopefully.
Facebook. I know Joe.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, yes. Social media.
How are you gonna do it?
Social media will be key. These guys have big followings. BYU has a big following, even though, of course, we can't go directly through the university. We have connections to people there who could send it to other people. And for the basketball community, fortunately, my dad's company, 5 Star Basketball, has a big database, and they have a popular website and Facebook page that we will try to promote it on. But hopefully just...
Eric's uncle.
Hopefully just...
Eric's uncle.
Eric's relative is Mitt Romney, so hopefully he could help us somehow. But
Film festivals and
Have
then
Kevin Devaney write an article.
Yeah, well, we've submitted to a couple of film festivals. We're still waiting to hear back, and we'll submit to some more and try to get the word out that way as well.
And also local Utah reporters. I was in touch with them about 2 months ago, kind of telling them about the idea. I think they were from 5 different outlets there, the 5 biggest ones there, and they're all really excited for the project, so they just told me as it gets closer to reach out to them again, and hopefully they'll do articles on it if their editors approve, so I'll probably reach out to them again today or tomorrow to see if there's still interest for that. Yeah.
So, Zach, I know you have a passion for basketball and a passion for sports. Has this experience turned you into an aspiring filmmaker? And where does your career take you next?
There's not many stories like this one, so but hopefully I could. I mean, I really enjoyed making this film, and it was so unique. But I don't really know what my future holds for me. I mean, I still have to make it through high school and decide a college, maybe driver's license. But maybe film school. But other than that, I mean, I have an interest in film, love basketball, and I just got to see where the future takes me.
I just want to give HR a heads up, you know. We're saving a spot for you.
He is interested in something.
Zach, hopefully this is one of many film premieres that we will be attending.
I think what's amazing actually is, Zach, you started on this, it was a year ago, right?
A year ago.
Yeah, so it was a year ago next week, right? And the first time, you know, and you had this instinct, there was a story here, and you sat down to do it. There are very few 8th graders, let alone adults, that have the persistence to see the story, but then to actually follow it through all the way that you did. And that was the question, like the first time you sat down with your parents and started talking about making a documentary, was like, is this really gonna hold you? And it's amazing to watch you, to watch you grow in it, both physically and in terms of your skills. It's amazing to see you collaborate with Ben, and to see you follow it through to this project, and to even want to go beyond it. So
And
congratulations.
I'll attest, having been there, the difference in your maturity and comfort and ability to relate to the kids in the first interview versus the last was extraordinary. And so, you know, to watch you sort of grow up and mature real time was fascinating for us as parents.
And the difference between a first interview and second interview, also their friendliness to me really helped that out, because the first time we were strangers, like I was talking to them, I was a kid, but we were strangers, and they could relate in that we're similar in age, but I'm just a kid from New York, they're kids from Utah who play basketball, but kind of over the few months following that, we texted and we really became friends out of it, and second interview, it was more talking as friends other than just being a stranger there.
It was very disarming. I think in the first interview you had all of your notes, which you carefully prepared on the plane, and you were reading from the notes. And they might have been answering or not, and it was disjointed. And by the end, you just sort of threw it away, and were just having a conversation.
Yeah.
And that access to them was critical.
Any more questions? Yeah.
How has this experience influenced your I guess attitude with your own team?
Yeah. That's a good question. Well, it's definitely influenced me in thinking that like it's possible to reach for the stars. I know everyone says that, but like it can be done, and these kids have proved it. Like I live in a town just like them, except I'm outside New York City, they're out of Salt Lake City, and it can be done that kids like us can really make it to the next stage and really make a name for themselves in basketball. So it's really because I never really believed that it could be done before them. Like I see these guys, but they don't come from places like where I come from in Rye, but they're very similar to us. So it really made me realize that I can be like them.
But there's one difference which they were proud to point out, I think, and that is when you talk about faith, they don't drink, they don't screw around, they all are, in this little bubble together, and because of that, they are just maniacally focused on playing basketball as a team.
Yeah,
there are no distractions.
Mormon high school students are very good focused student athletes.
Yeah.
That's why Zack's sharing the Book of Mormon with all of his team.
I'll never forget, you probably don't even remember this, but it was a few weeks after we got home from the first time in Utah, and Zack said to me, I feel like I'm becoming sort of a nicer person, because I realize, like, those kids, they're cool kids, but, like, they're nice, too, and they have good values, and, like, I can do that, too. And I think it was, like, it was cool to him that not only were there were these athletes that he really looks up to, and it was just neat to see that they can actually be good people and not have to drink or screw around or do anything and still be cool.
It was like meeting kids like from a totally like different planet. In no like bad way. It was a good thing, because like where I come from, it's very different. Like the culture is just different from where they are, in no bad way to either. But it's just, I just wasn't used to them. So meeting kids like them, it just like made me think of things differently, I would say.
It makes you pause, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Before I make any decisions. Yeah.
Congratulations, guys.
Very good, Zack.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I can't.